Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, my viewers. I'm Sadia Confidence Wali, and this is Confidence Pakistan show. And as you know, when I can, I invite an amazing guest. Today, I amazing guest. His name is Jan Uline. He's from Los Angeles, and he is a very charming and handsome personality. He's laughing, but and he is very amazing personality. Then this is the dance introduction of the his elite college mentors, and he is guide to students. And welcome to my show.
Well, thanks so much for having me. And yes, I'm Dan Euland from Los Angeles, California, and hi to everybody watching live.
Dan, could you share a brief overview of your journey from Los Angeles to founding Elite Students Coach?
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. So I grew up in Boston. I'm American. I grew up in Boston, Massachusetts, and I actually started working with teenagers when I was a teenager, and I empower teenagers to go from exceptional to unstoppable in life. College is one step along the road in that journey. But my company, Elite Student Coach, which I founded about a decade ago, kind of pulls together all the things in my life that have worked best for me and that I'm able to pass along to my mentees, to my students, whom I mentor, whom I call my mentees. So I started working with teenagers when I was a teenager, with little kids when I was a teenager in performing arts, teaching performing arts techniques in music and in magic, card magic, actually, which was one of my hobbies throughout life. When I was 13, I was teaching 8-year-olds. So I got bitten by the bug of teaching very early on, and it was something that I really enjoyed. And throughout my journey into middle school and in high school, I worked with teenagers. And in fact, when I went to college at the University of Pennsylvania and majored in creative writing, I thought I wanted to be a teacher. So I kept on working with kids all the way through college. And when I graduated from college, I was fortunate enough to get a teaching fellowship, a very odd and unexpected treat, a teaching fellowship in Osaka, Japan, developing the English language teaching materials for Japanese high schools with Panasonic Corporation and the Japanese Department of Education, Japanese Ministry of Education. And when I went over to Osaka, Japan, on what was supposed to be a 3-month fellowship, prepared to come back to New York and take a job afterwards that I'd accepted, and I ended up staying in Japan for 4 years. So one thing led to another, and I ended up living in Japan, moving to Europe, getting an MBA back at the Wharton School, where I was able to earn my way through. I never would have expected this to happen when I was an undergraduate. Moving back to Europe after earning my MBA at Wharton for another 4 years in Europe, and then coming to Los Angeles a couple of decades ago. Going back to get a master's degree in clinical psychology so that I could work with kids. And after that, founding my company, Elite Student Coach. And my mission is very simple. I, as I said, work with teens to help them go from exceptional to unstoppable in school, work, and life. And the word elite in Elite Student Coach isn't so much about the schools. Yes, Harvard and Yale and Penn and all of those schools are elite, but the elite modifies the student, the kid. Any kid is already elite. Any kid is already superb and spectacular in his or her own way. It's about bringing that out in the teenager. And I'm always reminded of this beautiful quote by Michelangelo, and I hope I get it right, but it says in English, "I saw the angel alive inside the marble before I began to carve." And I think this is a great metaphor for the way I work in which I work with my mentees, and kind of the model that I'd like them to see themselves in as they go into college and into graduate school and into a very competitive world of work. There is greatness within all of us. But I think in a competitive world, in this very competitive world in which we live right now, it's even harder for teens to see that in themselves and to find a way to express that in an open and honest way without feeling challenged in doing so. So that's what I do with my business. I love what I do. I will never stop doing it. Well, I'll stop doing it when I fall over and somebody puts me in a box. But until then, this is my mission in life. And as I told Sadia before we began the live stream, while I've been fortunate enough as an American to live in 6 countries and work in 31 in total, I've never been to Pakistan, and I'm coming to Future Fest in Lahore next month, and I'm really excited. I have a Pakistani mentee right now. I won't reveal his or her identity. The family wants confidentiality, and I respect the confidentiality. But I've been excited about coming for a long time, and I'm just thrilled to be to have the opportunity to come and make a keynote presentation in Lahore in late January.
Welcome to Pakistan from me and from my country. And I will be here, inshallah, in Future Fest, and I will meet you.
I'm looking forward to that.
Okay. Okay, so what inspired you to study clinical counseling, psychology, and in Antioch University?
So you're asking me why I went back for a graduate degree in psychology. Yeah, no, it's a great question, and here's why. So the through line on my work ever since I was a kid was always on education. I ended up not becoming a teacher because you never know, one thing leads to another. And although my intention was to go into teaching, and that was how I ended up on this research fellowship in Japan after college, I fell into the world of marketing and copywriting. And I say this because this happened, doors open in life based on experiences that we have when we're younger. If we expose ourselves to new and interesting things when we're younger, when we're in our teens, or even in elementary school, you never know what's going to happen based on those experiences that we had. And because I had experience in teaching and performing arts and music, I've played piano my whole life. I cannot read music. I'm one of those odd birds who can hear something and play it. But music on the written page is just squiggly lines. And I ended up with a job playing piano in a club across the street from Panasonic in Osaka. And the owner was good friends with the president of a big Japanese company. We did some work in copywriting. He introduced me. That turned into a beautiful working relationship, and I fell into the world of copywriting. But the through line was always on education. And as I moved into the world of marketing in Japan, in Europe, back in the United States, and earned my MBA, I still missed working with kids. And I served as, in the U.S. you can serve as what's called the Big Brother, which is basically a mentorship relationship that you can have with kids who are in your local community. I did that when I was in graduate school as well as when I was in college. But after moving to Los Angeles, I would say about 15, I think it was like 14 or 15 years ago, I really decided that I wanted to go back and pull together all the things that I love best about what I've done in my life, about business, with about teaching, in a way that I could, spend the rest of my 30 or 40, hopefully 50 years of life making a positive impact on the world. And so I went back and earned a master's in clinical psychology, thinking, okay, I'll become a psychologist, I'll become a therapist. And in the United States, each state has a certain number of hours that you have to earn to get your license. And in California,
yes, sir.
3,000 hours. So I earned 3,000 hours and decided at the time, after I earned the 3,000 hours, not to sit for the exam, but rather to open this business, because I felt that I could help a lot more people, make a lot more money and help a lot more people, and use that money to, there's two long-term goals with my business. Use the money that I earned from my business, yes, to support myself and my wife, and to, put away a little nest egg for that. But really, the two long-term goals for my business are, here in the United States, to take the not-for-profit that I've started, the 501c3 corporation, and use that to help veterans, frontliners, teachers, families, particularly families of color, low-income families of color, all of whom in the United States, I think, get less than a fair shake when it comes to getting a decent college education in this country. But more to the point of this show, because I work with young people, and I teach them how to, in turn, go on and mentor other people. The power of that math, taking that forward, by the time I'm gone, it may be tomorrow. I hope it won't be tomorrow, but if it's tomorrow, or it's 10 years, or it's 20 years, 30 years from now, or 40 years from now, what we will have is the mentors, the kids with whom I've mentored, and the kids they've mentored, and so on and so on. There will be hundreds of thousands of people who've learned as a result of that. So that's, you know, the power of the power of geometric progression on that one. And so the long-term goal is to have an army of polymaths and Renaissance men and women who've been built out as a direct result of this program. And that's the beauty of it. And I didn't feel, coming back to your question, that I could do that without earning not so much the graduate degree in clinical psychology, but working with kids over the course of those 3 years. So yes, I did get the master's in clinical psych, which is incredibly useful. But more to the point, in working almost exclusively with kids for 3.5 years in my clinical rotation here in Los Angeles, it pulled me into a lot of really incredible situations that I wouldn't have otherwise had. I'll give you an example. Again, card magic is one of the hobbies I've had throughout my life. Playing piano and card magic. Yes, I'm a geek. I have my geek glasses and I love magic, and it's just one of the world's oldest performing art forms. But I no longer perform professionally. I stopped doing that many decades ago. What did happen, though, is that when in working with a kid who was, I think, 11 or 12 years old, about a decade ago, she was severely traumatized. She didn't want to speak in the room. And after letting her, you know, honoring her silence for the first few sessions of our time together, I said, well, if you don't want to speak, that's fine. Would you like to see a card trick? And what happened was that, without my thinking about it at all, something that I loved and that was dear to me became a mode of play therapy for traumatized kids. So in psychology, we've heard of equine therapy, like working with horses or with other animals, or there's art therapy, or there's sanitary therapy. There's all different kinds of therapy, but you can always take something that is near and dear and important to you and bring that into the world in a special and unique way. And the reason I say that is twofold. Not only because it's a really important thing for us to do as human beings in order to pay it forward, to make a positive dent on this planet, but to the point of standing out in life, getting into and standing out in college and in graduate school and really any other endeavor. When you stand out in a way that's really unique to you and you embrace the things that are really special and unique to you, it shows up in an incredibly interesting way in the outside world. I'm trying to think of a great way to illustrate this point. I get asked this question, Sadia, all the time. Dan, what's the secret? What's the secret to getting into? And I'm putting air quotes around secret. I know it's a little weird having like little rabbit fingers here, but what's the secret to getting into elite universities? Here, there are millions of books on this, so we all know that for top tier universities, and this is true in Pakistan, in the UK, in the US, in any other country, yes, you have to have great grades. Yes, you have to have great scores. We take that. Do they have to be perfect? They do not have to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfection. Just as mastery of anything is a lifelong pursuit, the quest for perfection is fruitless. We want to embrace imperfection, but strive for perfection along the way in a way that's important to us. We want to be the best that we can be. Yes. So yes, you want to have great grades, the best grades that you can get, and study as hard as you can, but don't overdo it. Don't let your quest for perfectionism when it comes to get great grades get in the way of living your life and enjoying it. Okay, that's one thing. So great grades, yes. Great test scores, great activities. There's no one set of activities. I had a mom ask me the other day, and Dan, I hear it's true. Is it true that for a kid applying to a top tier university in the United States, you have to have one sport and one instrument? One sport and one instrument and something else. No, you don't. Many kids do. If you love a sport and you love an instrument, by all means play it. But there's no one formula. The formula is this: be yourself, stand out, and be yourself in a way that is interesting and authentic and unique for you. And I think that's scary for a lot of kids to do. It's a very competitive world right now. It's always been a competitive world, but it's particularly competitive right now. And in a competitive world, it's so odd here in the United States, and I'm sure in Pakistan you have an equivalent expression. In the States, we have a saying: the early bird gets the worm, or the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Speak up and you'll get what you want. And that does make a lot of sense. What's interesting, however, is that very often it's scary to do that for kids when they're applying to school, because they think, or their parents think, and they work. If this is a family thing, I work with kids. Yes, the parents hire me to come in and work with their kids on a one-to-one basis. I only work on a one-to-one basis. But it's frightening for them to think, well, if I stand out too much, I might frighten off the admissions officer. Or if I tell them what's really in my heart, I might scare them off. So maybe I should just fit in a little bit. But if you fit in a little bit, you're going to be like everybody else, like the tens of thousands of kids who are applying to schools. I'll give you a specific school, case in point. So in my hometown of Boston, Northeastern University, it's a fantastic school, always been a fantastic school, slightly less competitive over the last decade or two because until they got a new president about 10, 12 years back, I don't think it was marketed as well as it could have been. But last year, this is last year for 2022 or 23, kids who are this year freshmen at Northeastern University, they had 96,400 kids apply for the 2,500 spots on the Boston campus, making it equally competitive to, I think, University of Chicago and Brown. But here's the thing, Sonia. Somebody's taking those spots. Somebody's going to be taking those spots. Why not you? There's I wish I had more quotes. I wish I had any good quotes for today by authority figures or by famous people in Pakistan, but I'll give you this. The great hockey player Wayne Gretzky said, "You miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. Take your shot. You never know. The one guarantee for not getting into school, if you don't apply to the school, you will not get into the school. So apply. Take your shot." And to the point of standing out among a sea of 96,400 kids for those spots, how do you stand out with everybody who's got great grades and everybody, other kids who have fantastic grades, fantastic scores? You stand up and telling a story about who you are based on the questions that they ask. Yes, each school has its own series of what are called supplemental essays. Some schools have one or two or three. And then there are core essays for the Common Application, which is the Common App runs across most of the colleges here in the United States. There are a couple of different ecosystems for applications. Here in California, the UCs, UCLA, UC Berkeley, the UCs have their own system. MIT has its own system. But by and large, the storytelling process, the essay crafting process involves many of the same questions. And you do have to dig deep, but also realize you're not writing. This is not a creative writing exercise. This isn't, you're not trying to write the great American novel. You as a teenager are trying to tell your story. And coming back to what you asked before, I think it's hard to be a teen. It's hard to be a teen in the world. I think it's hard to be a teen in the world in Pakistan, in the United States, anywhere, because it's competitive. And also because in a world in which it's rare to be listened to, like really listened to and really heard, I think it's rare as a kid to really be listened to and heard, especially by an adult who's not a parent and who's not a principal or an authority figure. And it's scary also as a teen to say, I don't know. I don't know is a great thing to say. I don't know, but let's find out. Or I don't know, but let's find out together. And I think very often, I don't know terrifies kids who in this world in which everybody is trying to kind of stand out on social media or fit in, or those are not mutually exclusive. Just finding something inside you that is like very, very special that you can talk about, even the smaller the better. So that is a very long answer to your question as to why I went back to get my degree in psychology and how that shows up in the work that I do.
Okay, that's great. I have a question. He is my best followers, and he's very mentor. He's my mentor, SS Dogra. He's asking question. My question for Dan: how you enjoy working with kids, and what messages he wants to give to parents for better parenting.
Better parenting. Wow. Well, okay. I'll start with the second question first. And I'm sorry, what is the gentleman's name? What is what is his name?
SS Dogra from India.
Hi, SS Dogra. Pleasure to meet you. And thank you for the question. It's a great question. So I'll start with the advice to parents. It's very anxiety provoking process to be a parent. It's a great joy and privilege to be a parent. I got married late in life, and my wife and I don't have any children. Well, we have cats, so there's no danger our cats are going to get into Harvard and cost us $300,000. That said, I've worked with kids my entire life, and I've worked with thousands of parents. And I guess that when it comes to your question about being a parent is lean into the uncertainty. I think the uncertainty and the not knowing, just as it's scary for kids, is also very frightening and troubling for parents. What if my child doesn't know what he or she wants to do when they grow up, or what if they don't get perfect A's? It's okay to feel afraid. I will say this, my observation, having done this for a long, long time, every parent, whether they're in a public school system or they're homeschooling their kids, or they go to a well-established expensive private school, feels kind of the same way. I feel a little, they say, I feel a little alone in this. I feel alone. I feel a little frightened, and I'm not sure anybody understands how I feel. I will say this to the moms and dads out there, particularly the moms, and I say this with the greatest respect to the dads. The moms tend to be kind of the emotional gatekeepers when it comes to this process. But to the moms and dads out there, you are not alone. You are not alone. I understand completely how you feel, and leaning into the I don't know what my kid will do, but what if he or she doesn't pursue medicine, or what if we look at what he or she loves to do right now and say, well, what if he can I ask your user a question? What is his is this a Dogra, is a man or a woman?
SS Jogra, he's journalist from India. He's
Journalist.
filmmaker. Yes.
Okay. So let's create a hypothetical scenario. Let's say that your child is in middle school, so it's 14 years old, which here in the United States would be in middle school. Okay. And likes science, loves math, loves physics, is a pretty good writer, doesn't like to read. I'm creating a hypothetical situation for you. But is interested in comp sci, likes history, but doesn't know what he or she wants to do with their life. Oh, that's awesome. That's a great place to start, because we know a couple of things that he or she does like, or they like to do. So rule outs are as useful as rule ins. Knowing what you don't like. So let's say that early in life, because I see this happen a lot, kids or parents will say, well, I really want my child to pursue a musical instrument. I love music. I've loved music all my life. I just never happened to learn how to read it. And I suppose I could learn to go back and read music now, but why? Play piano bar, Elton John, Rod Stewart, Elvis Costello stuff. That's the kind of stuff that I like to play. But let's say that your kid is playing violin and just doesn't like it. The time to quit it is earlier in life. Try it for a couple of years and quit. This is not a message to be a quitter, but the time to try things out and say, you know what, that was cool. I got something out of that. Let me move on to something else is earlier on in life rather than later. I'm not saying that as an adult, you can't try new things and test them out. But when you are in elementary school or in middle school, and when you've got a kid at that age, it's the perfect time for them to start something and say, I'm not sure that I like this, or I really like this, or I didn't think that I would like water polo at all or swimming at all, but I love it. And you don't have to be an Olympic level swimmer. You just have to like it enough that you can enjoy it and talk about it, and that it brings joy to your heart. Yeah. So back to the message of the parent: lean into the uncertainty, lean into the fear. You are not alone in this one. And the same message that I tell my mentees: I don't know is a great place to start. I don't know, but let's find out is another great place to land. But the best place to land is I don't know, but let's find out together. And the way that this shows up in the way that I work with my kids, and this is not a pitch for my program, I have very few spots in my program because I only work one-on-one, is that I work with my mentees to have them create little workshops on something that they love to do. There are three sort of pillars, for lack of a better word, in the Elite Student Coach program. One is helping my mentees become master communicators on paper, on stage, in front of people, in front of crowds, communicate with themselves, learn emotional intelligence, the art of persuasion, negotiation, all of those things. Those fall under the umbrella of communications, yes? The second is that I teach them the basics of entrepreneurship. I don't think any kid should go to college with a basic understanding about the psychology of biobehavior, how to write a line of copy, just some business school basics. And the third is that I mentor them. In other words, I teach them, as I said before, as I'm mentoring my kids, I am teaching them. Do you see how I'm mentoring you? I'd like you to do the same thing with kids who are younger than you. And so they'll put together a little workshops. I'll give you an example of one of my mentees is fabulously talented in a lot of areas, but one particular area is art. So she decided she was going to put together a workshop, a weekend workshop for elementary school kids. She is now she was at the time a high school sophomore. So the summer between her sophomore and junior year, she put together a workshop at $49 per kid, $49 US per kid, on landscape painting, and it was a three-day workshop. $49 per day per kid. That's not bad. So she made $450 that weekend, a little under $450, and she created. At the end, her kids all walked away with not only one painting, which was was going to be the original goal of the exercise, but actually 3 different paintings. She went past the original goal of her workshop. But what was she really creating? She was creating an experience. She was learning how to market the workshop. I gave her a template, a Canva template that she used, so we could work together on how to market the workshop using her social network and her mom's social network. So she learned how to price that and how to ask for the money and communicate that, use the art of communication to communicate with the moms. This is when the workshop is going to be held. It will be held at our home for these 2 days. So it was the market, it was the monetize, and it was the mentor. As she was mentoring the kids and teaching them how to create a painting of a mountain or a landscape, beautiful paintings and the work that they created, she's creating an experience for them. So she was pulling together communications, mentorship, and entrepreneurship. But here was the really big payoff at the end. After she was done with the workshop, so she made herself a tidy little sum of just a little under $450 that weekend. Not $450,000 that weekend, $450 that weekend, which is that's a great amount of money for any kid, for anybody to make, really, in a couple of days, but much less for a teenager who's never done this before. She went back to the moms. We talked about doing this. She sent an email back to the moms and the dads and said, "Thank you so much for having allowing me the privilege of working with your children for the 3 days. I'd also like, as an unannounced bonus, to give you the template that I used for marketing my workshop, the syllabus that I used for creating the program that I taught, and my philosophy on mentorship, because there's no reason that your kids can't go create their own workshop next week or next summer and do the very same thing." So she passed that very same lesson along. She never has to market again. She has a list of parents, 23 or 24 parents long, waiting to get into her program right now. That's a natural byproduct. So she's pulled together something that's near and dear to her heart, that she loves. She's created joy around that in the kids with whom she's worked. She's made money along the way. And as a result, will it look great on her college application? It's going to look fantastic on her college application. But she wasn't doing it so that it would look great on her college application. She was doing it because it was something that she loved. And she's a very talented artist. Is she the greatest landscape painter in the world? I don't know. You don't have to be the greatest. You have to love something. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to get it going. Yes. And I think that this is an example of the roundabout way of answering your first question, which was my advice to kids. Step up, stand out, don't be afraid of failure. I think very often we associate failure with it's being binary. Like, I have either succeeded or I haven't. Not having something go right is just an opportunity for something to go even better the next time. Countless examples. How many filaments did Thomas Edison go through before he created the light bulb? We look at many of the great success stories throughout life. This is true in any country, in any era. But the people with the greatest successes in life are the people who failed many, many, many times before they did it. It's a question of getting out there. And this comes back to, I think, a question that, Sadia, you and I talked about this in emails going back when you were kind enough to invite me on this show. We're taught, and I'm trying to keep my fingers in the frame here, that the shortest distance between two points A and point B, is a straight line. Yes, but it's not. It's when you fold space together. And so what I try to do for my kids, obviously a lot older than the kids I work with, is to collapse time for them, just to show them, listen, this is what's worked for me in my life. It may not work for you, but let's see if we can establish some shortcuts so that you can get an unfair advantage over other kids. That's not in a mean way. There's nothing wrong with trying to get ahead of others, because when you get ahead of other kids, in a competitive world, it also allows you to reach back and help them keep pace with you. Yes, we're all in some ways, I guess, trying to sort of climb up this metaphorical mountain, and some of us are, it's just an easy stroll up the mountain. For some, it's an almost vertical climb, and we're kind of scratching up with our fingernails, and some of us are just reaching over to help others get up that way. So I hope this answers your question. To parents who are out there, lean into the fear. It's going to be all right. Wherever your kid ends up going to school, whatever she or he does with his or her life is going to be wonderful. But there's no such thing as perfect. And in fact, how boring life would be if every grade was an A, and if every race we won, we crossed the finish line first, and if everything was perfect. We learned from those ups and downs in life. Life is a series, just as we see in music and art and literature and relationships, personal and professional and familial, of ups and downs and conflict and resolution. And the last thing I'll say about this with respect to families is that from a neuroplasticity perspective, from the perspective of how a teenage brain is biologically is developing, the teenage brain is evolving at the 20 or 30 times the rate of the adult brain right now. So here are these kids who are in very often adult-sized bodies or bigger. I mean, some of my mentees are, I'm not a small guy, but some of my mentees are 6'4", 6'5". These are big kids. So they look like adults, but they're still teens, and their brains, we see this happen a lot. And I wonder if you've seen this idea happen with the kids with whom you work, where they'll have this brain freeze because their brains are going so fast, they just need some time to slow down. And so the one piece of sort of advice I would offer out there is having some free time to look up at the sky, or to pick up a physical book. Great readers make great writers. Pick up a physical book and start reading. The art of reading is, and I'm sure there are many people out there who still love to read, but I cannot tell you how what a great gift it is to be able to write. And I'll say this too, and I know I'm going to butcher this quote. It's on my website, so I should have it right. But Warren Buffett, who knows a thing or two about money and success and learning and education, said, if you can learn and master the art of communication, both written and verbal, you can add another 2 or 3 more zeros to the back end of what it is that you are. And money's great, yes, but money, I think, swims in the wake of doing things that we love and that serve other people. Just my philosophy. I hope that answer was helpful for you.
If you have time, I have a question from Javed Akhtar Rao. Akhtar Rao,
I have plenty of time.
He is my student because I'm a graphic designer and he is my student. What is easy way for parenting in psychology? How can we handle difficult children?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? How can we handle difficult children?
Yes. What is easy way for parenting in psychology? And
Wow.
how can we handle difficult children? These are 2 questions.
Okay. So I heard that this. I'm sorry, our audio got. I heard, how can we handle difficult children? Can you give me the first question again? I apologize for that.
What is easy way for parenting in psychology?
Okay. All right. So how can we leverage what it is that I learned or that we learn in psychology as a parent? Okay, great. It's a great question. I'll do the same thing that I did before. I'll answer the second question first. How to handle difficult children. I think it all depends on what you define as difficult children. If it's children who don't do exactly what you say that you want them to do, welcome to the world of parenting. I think here's one of the things about parenting. There's a concept in psychology, in a branch of psychology called family psychology, called healthy differentiation. And healthy differentiation comes at a time, just around the time when you as a parent are trying to get your child, because logically to you as a parent, it makes sense. You come home from school and you have a snack, and then you do your homework, and then you have dinner, and then you finish your homework, and then you go to bed. That's the logical series. And it probably makes perfect sense for you as a parent. Again, I'm creating a hypothetical scenario. But to the kid, it may not make sense. It may make sense for them to do their homework later or before they go to bed. And I think that a lot of parents, I know, because I get this from parents all the time. Dan, why won't my kid listen to me? It makes perfect sense. It probably makes perfect sense to you as a parent, but it may not make perfect sense for the kid. And in that delta, in that space in between, what makes sense for you as a parent and what makes sense for the kid is this great learning opportunity, both for you as a parent and for you as a kid, because your kid is experiencing very healthy growth. I'm a little more worried when I meet a kid who does everything that their parent wants them to do. Susan, if you just come home and have a snack and do your dinner, and it's yes, mommy, no, mommy. I don't know why I did that. That was strange and robotic and crazy. But kids not obeying their parents is a great sign. I do not mean that any disrespectful thing, and I know that it is very, very frustrating for parents to do that, but it's a sign of growth. It's a sign of growth. Think back, parents who are listening right now, to when you were a teenager, probably not very long ago for most of you. What was it like for you when you wanted to be completely independent, but you really didn't? And you didn't want your parents' help, but you still did. And you were in that beautiful stage of becoming who you are today. And now some of you are, you're becoming parents, and you're seeing your children in some cases become parents. Yes. So this growth is the concept in family psychology, which is a form of psychology, a branch of psychology called healthy differentiation. That's one thing you can dig into. So dig into family psychology, and Salvador Minuchin, Minuchin, I believe is his name. You can dig into some of his stuff. Psychology is an endless rabbit hole of fascinating things, and I love opening doors. When I lived in Japan, I moved to Japan, and I love languages. I didn't speak any Japanese. I learned to speak Japanese while I was there, but the people asked me, what was the thing you loved most about living in Japan for what turned out to be 4 years and was supposed to be 3 months? Was that every day I woke up realizing I knew less. Every day I woke up in my bed, and for the first 2 years in Osaka and the second 2 years in Tokyo, saying, you know what? There's something new to discover that I didn't find out yesterday. And this is just true in the world. And this comes back to your question. I think both of the questions that I've gotten so far is never lose that sense of childlike, not childish, childlike curiosity. What if we tried this? What if we did it this way? What if we broke the rules and just tried it another way? I bet you've done this as a parent. I bet you've done this as a kid. And so when when your kid is defying you and saying, Dad, I'm not going to do that, or Mom, I'm just not going to do that, hold back. I know it's very difficult. It's that respond versus react. Take that breathe, take that moment to breathe and realize, like, what's going on in your kid's head. We've all heard of emotional intelligence before. Yes, emotional intelligence, and it has a lot of different meanings, but here, the way it comes to roost here, I think, is try and see it through your child's eyes. What do you think is going on for your kid? And very often your kid doesn't know. One of the things that I took away from these wonderful years that I worked in my clinical internship was that we are people, we're not pathologies. So very often I no longer practice as a therapist, but I work with kids who have ADHD or some other kind of a diagnosis. That's the diagnosis that they have. It doesn't mean that that's who they are. We are not our diagnosis. We are who we are as people. Yes, and we bring whatever it is, just as we bring in talents into the world. We bring in whatever it is that we have. So if it's often called attention deficit disorder, ADHD. Used to be called ADD. Well, very often kids who have ADD also have that super laser-like power of focus. So we work with what we have. See yourself as a superhero. What's your superpower? I always ask parents that too. Like, what's your parental superpower? And a mom say, I never really thought about it in those ways. I said, but if you were a superhero, what makes you the super mom? I'm pretty good about listening to my kid, even I think she said, I'm pretty good at listening to my kid, even when I don't like what she has to say. And I paused and I said, that is one of the most profound things I've ever heard. And I said, does that remind you anything of what you were like when you were a child? And she said, it does. I hadn't thought about it that way. So I don't think that's going to solve the problem, because there is no solving the problem, but embracing the differences and leaning into the hurt, and also lean into embracing those. I mean, if your kids get straight A's, and embrace every success, but even the micro successes, those tiny little successes, like look at this beautiful sentence that I wrote. Look at this. It doesn't have to be the grade that I got in life. Look at this beautiful sentence that I wrote. Or if your kid is a very tiny child, 3 years, 4 years old, look at what I made with clay. You know, we build our adult lives. This isn't. I think I guess we all know this, but I'll say it anyway. It didn't come to me until later on in life when I was studying psychology. Sort of, duh. We build our adult lives. We build the world in which we inhabit as adults based on how we viewed the world when we were children. So to the degree that you can have a happy childhood, whatever a happy childhood means, all parents want their kids to be happy, and they want to protect them from the world. And the world is going to come to them no matter what. Yes. So you do what you can we do what we can to protect our children. We do what we can to protect our mentees, and we do what we can to protect our friends. But when the world, brings some hurt, or when the world brings difficulty, or you don't get the grade that you want, or the person you ask on a date doesn't go with you on the date, or the professor that you ask to help you understand something better doesn't give you the answer that you want, find another way around it. In the absence of resources, become resourceful. I hope this was helpful. And I appreciate the wonderful question. I'm here for as many questions as you'd like to ask.
If you have time.
I do.
Do you have time? Do
I
you have
do.
more time?
I have all the time that you want.
Okay.
I am all yours.
Okay. What advice would you give teenagers struggling to find their path?
What advice would I give to a teenager to find their path? Is that the question? Yes.
Yes.
It's a great question. So here's my answer. Let's start with, what do you love? What do you love in life? And that could mean academically or non-academically. So do you like? Oh, no, three screens. Okay. So let's start with the academic thing. Do you like science? Do you like poetry? Do you like everything? Is there something that you are good at but you don't like, or is there something you're not good at that you do like? So let's lean into the subjects academically. Let's lean into those. Those do not have to be what your profession is going to be. The world is changing super fast all the time. It always has been, but with the advent of AI and with a lot of things coming along, the ability to adapt to change is more important than it ever was before. And adapting to change, a great way to learn how to do that in the beginning, early on in life, is what am I good at already, and what is it that I really like? So I guess I would say to a teen, sit down with an actual old school pen. You may have seen these before. They're actually writing implements and a piece of paper, because the act of writing it, physically writing something, will hardwire it into your brain in a very different way than typing it into your laptop or onto your iPad or your phone. Make a list of 10 things you just love in life, okay? And in no specific order. Let's start with 10 things you love most in life to do. And it could be academic subjects. It could be, I love planting flowers. I love playing soccer. I like helping others find the best in themselves. I love teaching. It could be anything at all. And the small, I like making cookies. I like eating cookies. There's positive things you can do with anything. So it doesn't have to be the biggest thing, but make a list of those 10 things and then start putting those in order. Then go from top to bottom. What's the most important thing? And if you want to make it 20 things, make it 20 things. I always like to start with 10. 10's a good round number to start with. And start leaning into that. And let me see if I can anticipate what I think or is driving the question. What do I want to be when I grow up? Professions are changing. The world is changing really, really quickly. So look at the things that you love to do right now. And then on a separate piece of paper, write down 10 things that you haven't done that you really want to do over the course of the next year. Year to 5 years. So let's do a 1 year and a 3 year and a 5 year. Just make a bucket list of 10 things that you absolutely want to do. I want to learn to speak another language in addition to the one I'm studying in school. Or I want to learn how to teach. I want to take something that I love to do, whether it's baking cookies. I don't know why I'm saying cookies. I'm not a big cookie eater. Or baking or cooking spicy food, or helping others with math problems, or creating jewelry, beautiful jewelry, putting those into a workshop form. And a workshop can be something as simple as inviting over a couple of the other kids in your neighborhood, sitting around a table and teaching them 3 things over the course of a day, like the course of an afternoon. Start at 10 o'clock in the morning, have a refreshing drink of water or something, and then finish at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. If you teach kids 3 things, that's great. And they walk away with something tangible. They walk away with something they've created, or a page of math problems they've solved. In the case of math, I'll use math as an example because I work with a lot of STEM kids. One great approach to looking at this, and this comes back to that Michelangelo quote where I saw the angel alive inside the marble before I began to carve. One thing with mentees of mine who've done math or STEM-related workshops in which they help their mentees, the kids I'm mentoring, their mentees learn how to work through physics or math or other STEM-related projects, is helping them find out not just how to answer the question, but find out that they already knew how to answer the question beforehand. They just didn't realize they knew. So that is, this circles back to the psychology. So cognitive behavioral psychology and sort of evidence-based psychology. One of my mentees gave a great example of this the other day when he talked about a math workshop that he's running. He's a high school sophomore right now. And his approach is to help kids who are afraid of math, who were told early on in life, as I was, you're not good at math. You're not good at math and you're never going to be good at math. But they actually are very good at math. They just are afraid of math. And when they have to do more advanced math, pre-calculus or algebra or whatever it is, linear geometry, in high school, go back and say, when did you do something like this and you got it right? Go think back to when you were able to. This is my mentee talking to his mentees. Can you think back to a time maybe in 7th grade or 6th grade when you had a similar kind of problem and you were able to figure that out? And inevitably, they're able to find an example in their life where they could say, yeah, I remember doing something like this, and I was able to find the right way to do that. And his approach is, you already knew how to do that. You just didn't know that you needed to learn that. And unlocking that inside them, that unlocks their confidence. And this is the other thing too, like we always hear about confidence and learning to build confidence. Confidence comes in a million different flavors and shapes and sizes. I think confidence is custom tailored, but it's great when other people give us praise or tell us that we've done a good job, whether it's our parents or our friends or our professors or our teachers. But it's most meaningful when we can source it from within. Like if we have this well that we can draw from within, an inner wellspring of self-confidence and self-worth, and it's a chicken and the egg kind of problem. We need to have some feedback with the outside world, yes, in which we feel worthy of doing these things, but to have this come from within is more important in the long run than to have it come from without, for 2 reasons. Because then it becomes this kind of ever-burning furnace inside you that you can always go back into. Yes, it's a bottomless well of confidence that you can bring up yourself in situations in which you don't feel confident, or you feel fearful, or you lean into the fear. Fear and faith are not mutually exclusive, right? How many times have we been afraid to do something? We tried it and it hasn't worked out, but in the act of trying it, we felt a little better that we've tried. Sadia, has this ever worked for you? Where you do a lot of public speaking. I do a lot of public speaking too. Have you ever gone on stage and just been a little afraid before you've gone on stage?
Okay. Please. One more question.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
Sure.
Can I
As many
can I
questions as you
ask
like.
one
I'm
more
all yours.
question?
I'm good.
Huh?
Please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, where do you see the future mentorship heading, especially in increasing digital world?
I lost the last part of the question, especially in the which,
In
especially in which.
especially in an increasingly digital world.
It's a fantastic question. I'm so glad that you asked that. So I think that of the three things that are built into my program, and again, this isn't an ad for my program, the most important part of it, of the three pillars, the communications pillar, the importance of learning how to communicate inside and outside and with other people, the importance of learning basic entrepreneurship skills, and the importance of learning how to mentor others. And before I get to the mentorship part, these are important not only because they're not taught at the high school level, pretty much any high school. They're basic communication techniques, but the kind of techniques I'm talking about are not taught at the high school, nor are they taught at the college level. You can use them in any profession you decide to go into. If you decide to become a doctor or a dancer or an accountant or an entrepreneur or a gardener, or they're useful in no matter what it is what profession you decide to do with your, or series of professions you decide to engage in. Very often we're going to have a lot of professions, a lot of lives that we're going to live. They're also AI proof. And this gets back to your question. AI is a fantastic tool. It's been around a long time, but in the way that we see it right now, it's only been around a short time. And I hear a lot about, well, AI is going to erase a lot of jobs. It will take away jobs. I look at AI this way. If you're a master carpenter, if you're a fantastic carpenter, AI is like the greatest set of power tools you will ever have. But ultimately, any kind of meaningful work, whether it's teaching, the beautiful work that Sadia does, whether it's teaching or medicine or technology or parenting or being an artist or being a writer, is ultimately about the exchange of emotion, the exchange of human emotion. And AI will never take the place of that. It'll be able to simulate that, but learning how to communicate with yourself and communicate with others and listen to others and pull those skills together makes mentorship an even more valuable tool in the face of what's coming. And you don't have to go to mentor school to become a mentor. You just have to do it. You just have to go out there and do it. And it's kind of a lost art form. I mean, in the old world, I suppose, new world, in Europe, you'd come from grade school and afterwards, and you become an apprentice. You work with the local blacksmith or the local, cobbler, and you learn a trade. Yes. And mentorship is not unlike that. I'll give you a saying in psychology that I love. This is one of my great heroes in psychology, is the great Carl Rogers, who passed not too long ago. And he said that the most important thing about being a great psychologist was holding his patients, in this case, mentors, in unconditional positive regard. And what he meant by that, and I bring this into the way that I work with my kids, and I encourage them to do that as well, is to, again, create that safe space for kids in which they can I had a parent ask me, Dan, can you teach me how to mentor my kids? You can't. This is the one thing I cannot do. You can't be a parent and best friend and cook and banker and chauffeur, and you can't do that and mentor. It's a different kind of work altogether. But as a mentor, you hold your child or your patient. I hold my mentee in unconditional positive regard to create that safe space for them to say, you know what, this is good. You're older than me. I see this has worked for you before, but here's a feedback loop for you, Dan, after 10 sessions in. This doesn't work for me. Let's go with that. I know that my mentorship work is working especially well when a mentee can turn to me, I don't know, 8 or 10 sessions in and say, all the stuff we've been doing together is great so far, but this doesn't work. Because this helps me tune into my mentee and become a better mentor, and in turn make him or her an even better mentor along the way. So it's a pay it forward system. So best advice to sum it up for your question: you want to learn how to mentor somebody, just go out, pick something that you already like, go out, pick a day, do it, teach 3 things. If you like math, find kids who are afraid of math or are great at math and teach them 3 things: how to get things done in a more efficient way, or how to lean into the fear and uncertainty of it, or how to, if they're so great at math, teach them, listen, I'm also great at math. Go out. Here's how to reach out to kids in your grade, because mentorship can be side to side. It doesn't always have to be older to younger, right? There's the dojo, the martial arts model in which you're teaching people who are the same age. There's also a model in which you are mentoring people who are older than you. One of my mentors is younger than me right now. But if you have that, if you cultivate that skill early on, and that ability to listen in and hold your mentees in unconditional positive regard, encourage them to go forward and do that, you'll be unstoppable. You'll make a lot of money, and in the process be able to give a lot of that back to the world in a positive way. How's that?
All Sir Dan, all answers are very amazing, very interesting, and thank you for coming in my show
It's my
in
great pleasure.
Pakistan.
Thank you. Thank you so
Next
much.
question. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much,
It's in
Sadia.
time, and yes, and thank you so much, Dan. I'm very happy and I'm very excited. I was very excited about you. I about hosting. Confident Pakistan with you, but this is a very good experience for me.
It's a wonderful experience for me too, Sadia. Thank you so much for the opportunity and the honor to be on your show. Um,
Thank
I know my answers kind of rambled a lot there, but please feel free to reach out. And if there's anything I could do to help you or your listeners in the future, I'd be honored to come back again. In the meantime, blessings, Happy New Year, everybody, and thanks so much for listening.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
That's great. Thank you, everybody.